All right, I want to thank everybody for coming by. This is my second video on antique novelty radios. If you didn't see the first one, by all means, go check that out too. A lot of interesting things there. This one, we're starting off with a bunch of books, it would look like. This is a pretty interesting set. It's very well made. It's called a Universal Library. And this is made in 1931. This is a Crosley radio, because it's not a set of books, but it is a radio inside. 1931. This is actually in just remarkable condition. It looks like it was made yesterday. Hard to believe it has withstood this test of time so well. It's got, this is kind of a pre-tuning eye setup. That as you tune the stations, that light will actually dim and fade. But she's a pretty good worker. Let's see if we can pick anything up here. Oh, it was static.
Radio.com or the relevant radio app.
So she does work. Just gotta have it tuned in, I guess. But it's a good worker. Very rare. Like I say, it's a Crosley. I think this is a model 141. So we're gonna do like we did in the first video. We're gonna start with the old ones and work our way up, and we'll take a look at the next one. All right, this next one is one of my all-time favorites. I have looked for years to find one of these guys. They are so hard to find, especially complete. This is, for reasons that are obvious, called a log cabin radio. See if you get a little name down there. It's a log cabin. This is, believe it or not, made completely out of wood. It's made by the Beco company out of Chicago. Very hard to come by. There was another version of this that was smaller, but this one, the story on these, from what I understand, is that this is from 1935, and these were giveaways by salesmen who would go door to door wanting you to buy whatever it was they had, and I guess if you bought enough of it, you would get a radio, or maybe a voucher for a radio. You'd have to send it in and then get your radio. But this is what they were giving away. So how many of these were ever put out there, don't know. This one's got little staining on the side. This is 100% original. Nothing has been changed. This is just super rare. And she does play. Those are the original knobs. This is just so cool. Love the design. 1935 log cabin radio. Nice. Now, if you saw my first video, you saw the giant Pepsi bottle radio. So naturally, I was told if I gotta do Pepsi, I gotta have a Coke product. So here we go. This is an original 1949 Coke cooler radio. This is really pretty interesting. Found this, it was in good working shape. I had to repaint it and do all detailing on it. Coke used this pretty much for like 30 years. Making cassette players out of it, AM, FMs, all kinds of different versions, but this is an original 1949 Coke cooler. Let's see what the back is. It's even got all the stuff on it. Didn't have any breaks in it, didn't really have any damage to do, just had to strip her down and repaint it. Didn't work on the inside. This works. It even plays the Beatles, so it's all right. So that is the answer to the Pepsi bottle, of course, is the Coke cooler. So now I have to find a Dr. Pepper something or other. So that'll be in video number 3. All right, now this is a fairly interesting one. It's not the most rare one you're ever going to find, but it's kind of different. It's put out by a company called Dahlberg, and it's called Pillow Speaker Radio. Now the reason it's called that is because that's the speaker. And it's on a cord, so you can take it off and move it around. Now the deal with these is that these were made to go in hotels or motels, and this bracket right here, which is the hard part to find on these, clamps onto the headboard. Okay, and if you're laying there and you can't get to sleep, you want to hear some music, you can put 10 cents in here and you can get 30 minutes of music. And then you would take the little speaker and you would put it under your pillow. So only you could hear the music. You wouldn't be bothering anybody else. And the other interesting thing is the dial numbers are upside down on these. So as you're laying there on your back looking up at it, you can read the dial. Now this one, the coin thing doesn't work, but the music does. I don't know if we can hear it, but you can kind of hear it playing there. You're gonna really turn it up to get it to hear, but kind of an unusual, and the color is fairly unusual, kind of a mint green, but just something different. They made another version of this which wasn't nearly as attractive as this one, but that's pretty much all Dahlberg ever did, was they made radios for hotels. So kind of cool. All right, now this little guy right here is probably one of the most common ones I have. This is a mid-50s one. It's called a spice rack. It's got some sliding doors in it here. We're gonna do a couple radios here made by a company. It's called the Guild Radio and Television Company. This is a spice chest, I guess. And this is all they did, believe it or not, was novelty stuff. They did about a dozen different types. This one probably one of the most common. There's actually a version of this where the doors are louvered, which is actually kind of cool, but they don't seem to wear well. This one, believe it or not, I found it in an antique store. It was sitting on a floor, covered in dust. Looked terrible. We took it up front, they plugged it in. Didn't work. Pretty much begged me to get it out of there. So I brought it home, cleaned it up. It's in almost perfect shape. And she plays great. I literally have done nothing to this. But it's just something different. The Guild Company. Now, let me get the other one they made. Okay, this is the other one that the Guild Company made that I have. It's kind of unique in that it looks kind of like a sewing kit or a sewing box. One thing I didn't mention is that the Guild Company was out of Los Angeles, and there were not too many companies out of LA. The one I've got to show you after this is another one out of LA that's really, really rare. But this one, the drawers are fake. They're just for looks. But if it looks like a sewing kit or a sewing box, it's because it is. It's called Buttons and Bows. It's got a real sewing motif there. And if you look at the knobs, they're thimbles and spools. Now this is also mid-50s, but it's also an AM/FM, so it might be a little later than mid-50s. But she works really well. This is one I listen to quite a bit. Just a very unique one you just don't see. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 other ones, and this is all I've ever seen. I love the little the little graphics on there. Those are actually, I think they're just decals. But this is a fairly large set. They made a couple huge sets, like desks, gramophones. Guild was a very clever company. Now let me get the other one that was also made in Los Angeles. Okay, now this one here, this is another, looks much like the Guild sets, but this is supposed to be a jewelry chest. And this is made by a company out of Los Angeles. It's called Pacific Vogue Radio and Television Company. Now, I had never ever heard of them until I saw this. They actually got the name inside here too, Pacific Vogue. So they weren't a big prolific manufacturer, that's for sure. I think I've Googled them up and seen a couple pictures of different versions, so they made a few. Don't know when this was made, late 50s, early 60s. That's a cute little set, kind of a no big deal. The big deal with it right now is I just turned it on and it will not play. So, got some work to do here. But thought you guys might get a kick out of this. It's not something you see every single day. It's in pretty good shape. A couple little dings here and there, but yeah, interesting. Now this little keg radio here, this is a bit of a mystery. Nobody has any idea who made it, or when, or anything about it, quite honestly. But this definitely is a factory-made set. I mean, it's the original base. It comes with its shot glasses, which are pretty much just for looks. I mean, and it's ceramic, which is unusual. Speakers on the back side. Now, I had to have some work done inside, and we determined from the components that this is probably a 50s unit, but there is no name anywhere. The spigot here, this is the on-off, and then the little guy on top up here, this is your tuning. Works great. But we got no ideas on this one. But this is really, really interesting. It is a fabulous job. Why they made it ceramic? Well, probably to withstand the heat, because it is a tight, tight fit in there. But works great, looks good. Just another keg radio for the collection of keg radios I seem to be working on here. So, all right. Let's have a drink. All right, now this set's a little bit different. It's got some explaining to do, so hang in there with me. This is called a talking scoreboard. I can show you on the back, it says that. That literally is the name of it. These, as I understand, were sold new in Minneapolis. Now, the date on this is unclear. I'm going to guess 1962 because the Twins didn't show up in Minneapolis until 61. This is the baseball version, and it still has the civil defense station locations on the dial, which were eliminated, I think, in 63. So I'm calling this a 62 talking scoreboard. Like I say, this is the baseball version. This upper piece is glass. Okay, brand new, these came with a grease pencil. Now there's a really nice video on YouTube of a fella opening one of these up out of the box, brand new, been sitting in the box for 60 years, and had the original grain belt grease pencil and everything. I was blown away by it. So the top part is glass, and as you're listening to the game, you can just go follow along, writing down the score, and then total it all up at the end. Now this is the rare baseball version, and that the corners are black. There's another that's blue, and then there is one version for football and basketball. It's divided into 4 quarters. Don't know that there's a hockey one. But then when you were done, you could just wipe the glass off and start all over. Now she lights up pretty well. Now this one I've not had any work done to it internally, but she works okay. Now the unusual thing about this, let's see if we can get some music out of it. There we go. All right, so she does work. Now, here's the unusual thing about this. I have little hooks on top to hang it on a wall. Why? Because this is not supposed to hang on the wall. This is actually supposed to sit on a shelf. Now, the reason this is different is because these 3 little fins on top are supposed to be on the bottom, so it could sit level on a shelf. When this was made brand new in the factory, it was built upside down. I have seen a picture of one other one that was done the same way, possibly the same person on the same day, who knows. But this is just a super rare version of a pretty unusual radio. So this is the old talking scoreboard. Kind of cool. I like these. It's an interesting idea to keep somebody sitting at a bar longer than they needed to be. All right, now this one here is a fairly popular version of a giant spark plug. These things are about 16 inches tall. It's actually a great likeness. They made these for quite a few years in different versions. There's a little bit shorter one that's a transistor radio. There's the very, very common AM version. Now the hardest one to find, of course, is going to be the one I have, of course. And that is the super rare AM FM. You can see it's got two dial numbers on top, and then there's a little switch on the back. So you can take your pick. And then to tune it in, of course, you just give her a twist. So that's how it works. Now, these are kind of cool amongst the what the automobilia collecting people, and there are spark plug collectors out there too that like to snap these up. So if you got to get one, try and find the AM FM one. They made like 10 times as many AM versions as these. This one's really nice. It's even got still has the little decal on the front. Hardly a mark on it. So I'm pretty happy finding that. Took a little while to find a good one, but you know, that's a nice little set right there. All right, now this little guy here, this is kind of pushing the envelope on what a novelty radio would be. This is a late 60s, kind of a trippy, dippy, hippie, flower child, psychedelic look to it, but definitely unique. I mean, I love the little finger pointer for your dial. And you got the, you know, the flower thing going there and the clock working. General Electric put this out. I've seen a couple of them. This one is essentially new old stock. When I got it, there's not a mark on it. I mean, it even, look here, it's even still got the original card that goes with it. Just kind of something different, something you don't see every day. It's a clock, alarm clock radio. And I mean, the radio works, of course, works great. But different, not something you see every day. Not a terribly large set either. So we're gonna call it a novelty radio just because it's, you know, it's funky. So we'll go with that. All right, this is the last of the tube sets we're going to look at, and then after this we're going to get into some novelty transistors. And that is a whole nother big old mess to get into, but picked up a few. But first, we have this. And I'm pretty sure this is something somebody put together, but they did a really good job on it. You see, it's got speakers, got little handles. It's got all this great old cartography, these old maps all over it. And I love the big palm tree. It's got the Calypso name, kind of making you think of Caribbean music or pirate ships or something along that line. And that's exactly what it is. It is a treasure chest. Now this is interesting. I mean, this is good stuff. You're gonna love this. So you open it up, and what's it full of? Treasure. We've got a little knob for the radio. It's got all these little gold and silver pieces of 8. We got some pearl anchors. Ooh, we got some more pearls on a pirate cutlass, I think that is. We got a little pirate gun. Got a ship's wheel with more jewels on it. And then the tuning selector has another ship's wheel with radio works, with a compass in the middle. So this is pretty cool. Somebody did a great job, and yes, it does work. I've been told that is off of a Majestic from the 30s, but you know what? It fits right in there. So what a cool set, cool idea. Probably the only one of its kind. The old Calypso pirate chest. Nice. All right, now we're going to take a look at some of my novelty transistor radios. They made quite a few different versions of these. And I don't have all that many, so it won't take too long, but they're kind of cool. These that we're looking at here, these are called two-dimensional because they're just a flat front, flat back. This is probably the easiest one for the companies to make. And so these are probably the most common ones out there. All of these do work. You got your Snoopy. That's the Hawaiian Punch guy there, Punchy. Got a little Yogi Bear. Got some Bozo the Clown. Fred Flintstone. And the big one here, this is a big baseball player. There was a series of these that was put out. So I do have that one. These all do work. These, if you want to collect, these are probably where you start, because besides these here, there's another 20 different versions of the two-dimensional ones. And it's a good starting place. They don't always sound that great. That's the downside to transistors. They were not the greatest internally. They were pretty much built to last for a limited amount of time, and then they crapped out. So my advice would be always try and find one that's working if possible. All right, now we're going to get into the food-related group. The number of styles, categories that they made these radios out of is monumental. Pick a subject and there's probably a radio made out of it. These are the ones I have food-wise. You get your infamous McDonald's French fries. Everybody likes that. There's a milk carton. There's a number of versions of that one. But that's got the Snoopy on it. Here's a giant, what must be an Oreo. It's a cookie with a bite out of it that looks like an Oreo. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that one. This is a rare one, Pop Rocks. I've only seen a couple of these. And this is a good working one, just not one that you see very often. Now this one right here is one of the more unusual ones I have, and it's fast becoming one of my favorites because of its just weirdness. This is called Strawberry Sundae. I think that's one of these characters, that's their name. And it's a bowl of ice cream with strawberries on it and all these little characters hanging on the side. I don't know what they were thinking when they decided to make this, but the detail is quite impressive. And it does work. It works actually very well. I don't know if I can get it to play. But this actually came, okay, she's not tuned in. This actually came with the original box. This is from 1981. So that's just a real oddball. All right, now we're gonna get into some of the animal-shaped ones I have. This little bear, believe it or not, this guy's called a tuna bear. There was a whole line of radios and different animals, probably about a dozen or so. I think they started with the tuna fish, but there were a tuna bear, a tuna elephant, a tuna and everything. But this is kind of cool, and that the knobs and all are behind his ears. So that's kind of a clever idea, and that one works pretty good. This next one this is a hard one to find, this alligator. I've only seen a couple. Usually they're broken. What's interesting though is that the eyes are how you tune it, and the other eye would be like the volume. That's a really clever idea. Now these get now into the three-dimensional ones. After the two-dimensional, get into some three-dimensional. There's a three-dimensional Snoopy on a little, not too sure what he's sitting on there. It's a nice one, fairly common, but kind of cool. This one is a fairly new one, this ladybug. Now what is interesting about this is the speaker is hidden, but when you turn the volume knob up, the wings open up. And that's where the speaker is down inside there. So the louder you turn it up, the higher the wings go, and then to shut it off, does that. That's kind of cool, like that. This one, if you know your cornflakes, you recognize that as the mascot for the Kellogg's cornflakes. Believe it or not, it has a name. His name is Cornelius, or just Corny, which would make sense. This came actually as a radio. You could get one as a clock, where there was a clock instead of a speaker. There was two or three versions of these put out. I think they were put out in England. So this is a pretty rare version. And oddly enough, I've not yet seen one that worked very well. I don't understand what the deal is. So this is kind of the animal category that I have. Some clever ideas in here. All right, for those of you who saw my first video, you know I have a thing for beer-related radios. I don't know why. And here's my transistor version. This is literally, it's a football. And the knobs and stuff are on the bottom. The speaker comes with a little T. This one I was very lucky to get. This was new old stock. It had never been out of its box. It is in absolutely perfect shape. So that's one you don't see too often. Here's a little deck of cards version. Kind of cute. Here's one I have no explanation for. Yes, that is an outhouse. Somebody thought it would be a good idea to make an outhouse version, and the speaker, believe it or not, is the hole. Enough said there. All right, this next one, this one I find very intriguing. This is a Raggedy Ann and Andy, not something I would normally be interested in as a subject, but this might be one of the neatest sets. I mean, the casting, look at the detail on this. This is a tremendous amount of work just casting this thing. And then the paint job is, I mean, that is top level stuff. Now here's the volume. It's this butterfly which slides back and forth, and your tuner is this flower. So it's super clever, super detailed, fairly uncommon, but you know, I thought, wow, that's one of the nicest ones I have quality-wise, and this one really works well too. So very cool. I've got another Raggedy Ann one coming up here shortly. All right, well, I know I showed you the outhouse. I don't know why I didn't think of it, but there's also a modern toilet version. There's your speaker there. So I thought I'd just throw that in there as little comparison. This one is interesting. This is a space shuttle, and the doors are open because that's how you access the knobs, is in the cargo doors, and then those just shut right down. This is another one I got at New Old Stock. It was still in the box. Sometimes the New Old Stock radios just don't play that well because they've been sitting forever. This one plays good, but it's a little scratchy. All right, I don't know how I missed this with the food. This is the infamous cheeseburger. This one is a real good player. There is actually a hot dog version that goes with this. So I missed that the first time. Now this one here, I'm going to call it as one of the most unusual ones. This is called a blabbermouth. And it's called that, let's see if we can get her to go. When you turn on the volume, the tongue moves inside the mouth to the music. So we've got to really crank this up. See if we can get it to work. That is just ridiculous. Money talks, it says. The blabbermouth radio. All right, we got a couple more to show you, then we'll get into some of the big money stuff. All right, we're gonna do a little golfing now. What we have here is a pretty cool golf ball. Comes off the tee. So you can get a plug in it for an earpiece. And we have a golf club. Now this one is one of my favorites because you just turn it up here. 13. Build off of. And she works. That's a really clever idea. And we have the golf bag. The detail on this is really nice. She spins out of there. That's pretty clever, whoever came up with that. There we go. Charlie Tuna action for you. This actually came in a couple different colors, and they have this little, what am I pointing at? Didn't have this little base down here that it sits in. Those are almost always lost. That one was in the box when I got that, so that's kind of neat. And then we have they made a zillion car versions into radios. This is a kind of different. It's a Jaguar. It's cool in that it actually has the antenna, which most don't, and it's the front wheels that you turn on either side for the volume or for the tuning. This is a really, really nice one. And this one I think is one of the coolest ones. I thought it was pretty rare, because I've only seen one other one. But it is another book radio, but of course you open it and there's radio inside. This is in really, really nice shape. That's just a clever idea. Yeah. Well, if you're going to make a radio, you might as well make it in the shape of the word radio. Got two of them here. The Radio Shack one, these are separate. Radio Shack one is infinitely more scarce. And this is different in that the tuning and everything is inside the circle. So that's just kind of a rare one. This one, the Red, White, the Avon one, is a fairly common set. They were made in about 50 different versions. There's a Pepsi one and a Coke and all the soda pop, you name it, radio station numbers, whatever you could print on there was printed and they were given away. But those are pretty popular. Now these on the other side, this is something you're not going to see terribly often. This is the other Raggedy Ann I was telling you about. It is a toothbrush holder that would fit in the hole there. And then while you're standing there brushing your teeth, oh, why is it not working? Okay, normally that works just great. You can listen to the radio. I'm still looking for the toothbrush holder. Now the other one, this one I am so proud of, is the Bugs Bunny version. And this one is probably more rare. This one is 100% complete. It's got both the toothbrushes. It's got the toothbrush holder, which actually works, which is something. It's got the Bugs Bunny monogram towel there. It is 100% complete, 100% original, and this one better work. Okay, it's kind of nighttime right now. We're not picking up any stations, I think is a problem. But the cool thing about the Bugs Bunny one, get this, the original box. The original Bugs Bunny toothbrush radio box. Now, I guarantee you there are not many of these left anywhere. Complete box with a complete set. Really proud of that one. That might be the only one that there is. So I'm still looking for parts for this one. So hopefully we'll get that back up. All right, now we're going to start getting into some of the heavy hitters now. These are some of the ones that are more rare and you rarely find. This particular one, the tire, this is not that hard to come by. The Getty version is rare. There is probably half a dozen versions of this, but the tire comes off of the little stand there. And this plays great. That's a cool little piece. Now, over here, okay, this is a giant battery. This, I had to cut it out of its original box. It had never been opened. And this is one of those that, even though it's brand new, literally, doesn't play very well. But I mean, look at the shine on that. That is just ridiculous. That's a rare version. You don't see that too often. All right, here's one I've never seen. This is a can of motor oil. Now you gotta understand that can-shaped anything, they went nuts making radios out of. Beer cans, pop cans, oil cans. If it came in a can of orange juice, there's a radio version. This one comes from the Missouri Farmers Association. Somebody named Jim Riley had his own motor oil. Get the speakers on the top. Ultra rare, never seen another one. Works great. Now I get into the beer cans. Here's one. A Billy Beer can radio. This came out of the original box. It is a 10 out of 10. Plays great. That's a heavy hitter, one of those. More so, take a look at this one, all you Dallas TV show fans. This is a J.R. Ewing beer can radio. Now, most people didn't realize that there actually was a J.R. Ewing beer. It was called his private stock, imported from Texas. And if they made a beer can, they made a beer can radio because they just couldn't resist. This is the only one of these I've ever seen. I've seen a picture of one. That is super rare. That is highly, highly collectible. All right, this one is just kind of an oddball. I thought I'd throw it in here. This literally is a ballpoint pen, as you can see, and it has a radio inside and an earpiece. You plug the earpiece in, there's a 2-stage volume, and it works, and the pen works. I just thought that was a marvel of engineering, someone come up with that. All right, here's another of the heavy hitters. I don't know what it's called. I think it's just astronaut Snoopy. Snoopy on a shuttle. You got little Captain Woodstock there. You got your Snoop Dogg. Hard to find those with the helmet because you had to break those to get them off. And it's some kind of a rocket shippy thing. The backside, that's where the knobs are. These are super hard to find. They are super duper hard to find working. This one does work, but not nearly as well as I would like it to, but it is probably in the nicest shape of anyone I have seen. That is a top dog, literally. Alrighty, now we have an interesting one here. We got us a Santa Claus radio. And this is a big thing. This is almost 2 foot tall. He's so big I have to prop him up with a bag of dog food. But this is super rare. It's made in Japan, which means it's probably from the 60s. He's got kind of a weird old Santa face. He's got the toy bag. Now the buttons are, of course, the knobs. That's your tuning. This one's your volume. And it does, see, even though it's rare as it is, it does work. But what's interesting is they put the speaker for this in the bag. So it kind of muffles the sound a little bit. I have only seen one other one of these. So they're not terribly common, but very cool. Okay, let me move him here because I'm going to show another one. I'll put him over here. Put that there because this next one is so cool. It is just ridiculous. The infamous Hamm's Beer Bear. Probably the most popular of all the beer mascots ever. You know, back in the 60s, I think he had his own commercials. He might have even had his own cartoon show for a while. Very, very, very popular. Now, you can still find these from time to time, but I have only seen one that worked. And that would be this one.
Brought to you by Bristol.
Is the only working Hamm's Beer Bear radio I have. Now, it looks like he ought to be holding something. So indeed he does. He has his very own Hamm's Beer can radio. And does it work? Yes, it does. So I figure he's a hard working beer drinking bear here. He needs to have his own radio can. Took me about a year to find that one. And there it is. That's something you'll not see again. Very nice. Now, they made a number of musical instrument radios. There are quite a few. The guitars are fairly popular. These are 2 of the unusual ones. This is an electric guitar, but this is super rare because it's a 2-tone, which I'm told very few are made. That one works pretty nice. This one, little acoustic number, is in great shape. It's one you just don't see very well. I think the internals are the same. This one does not work all that great. But, you know, it's a good, they're a good combination. I think there's still a couple more out there. I don't know. I don't generally try and get every version of everything. So we may just end up with that. All right, this guy here. What more do I have to say? This one might just possibly be my favorite. I mean, how can you not love a Bullwinkle? And he does, he does play very well. Yeah. I have only seen a picture of one of these. You can Google them and there'll be some pictures, images online. There's actually saw one in a box. That would be so cool. But these are all very tall. Now you can't maybe tell from the picture, but these are pushing 12 inches tall, which is pretty sizable for a radio. But that's my Bullwinkle. There is no Rocky Squirrel, I am afraid. No Boris Badenoff. Just the Bullwinkle. All right, this guy here. This is a heavy hitter. Top 5 of all time. The old Michelin Man from the Michelin Tire. This is the AM only version. There is an AM FM version, which has a bigger bass and it has an antenna coming up over here. Not nearly as rare as this one. You can see this thing is in really, really great shape. These are made in France, I think. Hard to find in this shape. Not a real good player, but certainly worth hanging on to. And there's this guy, the old Gumby. Fairly common. I just threw him in there because he's just too cool. The downside to the Gumby is almost always the battery cover is missing. And you find that with a lot of these old radios. That's the first thing to go. But they did not make a pokey version. There is, however, a Gumby pokey version, one of those rectangular shirt pockets type ones. But that's kind of cool. All right, this radio here has to be the most outrageous one I have ever seen. I just stumbled upon one of these recently in the box, and there's the box. It's called a Sexy Doll Radio. There are multiple versions with different color hair and whatnot. Again, this is probably 12 inches tall. It's got a little skimpy little negligee, and I mean you can see where the knobs are, right where they should be. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, I guess this is something your ultimate man cave should have. And most of the ones I've seen, they're broken on the bottom, but this one is in perfect shape. I mean, you can go on eBay right now and find half a dozen of these. Who knew? I mean, who knew something like this existed? That is a wow. All right, now the other one I'm going to show you. Let me swap her out. This next one is the heavy hitter. Well, not the. I'm saving the best one for last. This is the Old Crow, an 8 transistor. When you get up to 7 or 8 transistors, that is top quality internals. Most of the junky ones are 3 or 4 transistor. 8, that's as good as it gets. This is from Old Crow Distillery. This is an original box because that's what this guy came in. It had never been out of the box. It is in absolute perfect condition. It's even got the little plastic, they're plastic glasses. There's not a mark on it. And you can see at the bottom there, it's Old Crow, because that's supposed to be a crow. Some people say that's a penguin, but it's not. That is the Old Crow mascot, which they've been using for 100 years. And even a little close up there, Frankfort, Kentucky. That is top 2 heavy hitters. And to find one in this shape, my God. And I got this a pretty good deal because the person who had it had no idea. Now the way you turn it on is you turn this guy, you give it a tweak, and that is your volume. And then I think the back right there, yeah, that's where you tuned it in, your speaker. So that's the heavy hitter there, except for the last one I'm going to show you. The next ones I'm going to show you are probably the rarest of the ones I have. All right, now when it comes to these radios, there are multiple reference books. I think I've got 4 here. They all deal with novelty radios. They're a reference. They tell you when they were made, who made them. Some of them give a price value. Between all these books, there have got to be 2,000 pictures. Like these all in front, those are all radios there. So you have these books, you have the internet, you can Google anything. There are radio websites. So if you have something that is not anywhere to be found, you have rare. However, rare doesn't necessarily mean valuable. So what I have here are 4 radios that are nowhere to be found. Don't know why. This one is really cool. You pick it up, so that's the speaker right here. You pick it up and on the knobs and stuff are on the bottom. Now I think this might be English. I'm not sure. Plays great, sounds great, great condition. Total mystery. No one knows anything about it. Now I do a lot of baseball stuff, and this one has me stumped. I mean, this is literally the size of a softball. It did not come with the stand. I put that under there. But it's an AM/FM. I'm told it's from 1987. They were made in St. Louis. And it is total mystery. There's nothing anywhere about this. And this works good. Yeah. AM/FM. Super rare. Not in the book. Just unusual. Then this one here. I have looked high and low for another one of these. It is literally, it's a record shaped, it's like a record called the Disco. And it is a radio. It's got a little handle on it. And this baby plays great. Never seen another one. One of the rarest of the rare. All right, now the last one. This one I get nothing other than I have the original box. This is called a Fillmore Bouncy. Dances while it plays. Well, it doesn't quite. And that's what it looks like. It is like a giant bobblehead. It's got the name on it. I mean, you give them a tap and it'll bounce around while it's playing. These are your dials here. But it is a bouncing bobblehead transistor radio in the box. Probably the rarest one I have, because I can find absolutely no other pictures of one anywhere. The internet says it doesn't exist. So those are my 4. Hope to find some more. All right, let's clear this out and make room for the big top dog, the big money. All righty, there she is. For those of you who know what this is, I'm sure you're going, wow, don't generally see those. If you don't know what this is a 1965 Ford with a Nylent, what was the name of the company, camper on the back. Nylent was a big toy maker at the time. In 1965, Ford gave one of these to each of their dealers because they had just come up with a brand new front suspension. It was called the Twin I-Beam, and this actually has it. Okay, so they gave one of these to every dealer. I guess they could do whatever they wanted with it. Give it to their kids, take it home, ignore it, whatever. But the funny thing about it is that these campers had a radio in them. Now, you know, what were they thinking? I mean, what a ridiculously stupid thing to do, put a radio in a kid's toy. But because of that, these are now super rare. This one even comes with the original back door, which are super rare, and the original steps. Okay, now what's also cool is I was able to find an original livestock hauling trailer that matches. I think it might be a year later. And inside are 2 Nylent horses, which are super hard to come by. So the thing about this, though, is that is all original paint. That is the original camper. All the windows are in it. They all work. This is as nice and original decals as you can find. That is as nice of an original trailer as you can find. Of course, every horse trailer needs to have, you know, white walls, as does every pickup truck. But these are, they're not terribly rare. They're not the rarest thing you'll ever see. They are, however, bringing enormous money now. Let me spin it around. You can see, I mean, all the decals are on here. That is the original paint. This was obviously never played with by a kid. And the radio does work. It actually works very well, but like I say, we're at nighttime right now and I'm catching a lot of static. So she's not picking up right now. Not the best of radios, although it is a Philco. But yeah, during the day she plays great. So this is the big dog, as I keep saying. I never ever thought I would find one of these, and to find one this nice, that's an accomplishment. So like I say, it's a novelty radio. They made radios out of everything. So having said that, I hope you enjoyed part 2 of our little radio adventure. If you haven't seen part 1, go check it out, and hopefully we'll get a part 3 as time moves on. So thank you for coming by. Hope you enjoyed it.